Hi everyone. I wanted to hop on and talk about the theme of the week, which is trauma bonding versus healthy relationships. And this is quite a vulnerable subject for me. Those of you who I've worked with or met somewhere in life, were roommates with, or those of you who are in this container and I'm just met recently or whatever, thank you for being here. I appreciate you very, very, very much. So I've been through quite a lot of different things. And I mean, like a lot for most people that haven't served in the service and like seen just some awful things throughout life. And I realized during these last 2.5 years, like how toxic relationships kept happening over and over and over and over again. And a lot of that stems from, my childhood and then some terrible things that happened to me and then how I responded. And, at this point, I'm grateful that for everything that happened mostly, because it brought me here and I'm able to help a lot of you and others and serve from a place of fullness rather than a place of lack. But to go through this healing process and to do so much work inward and to realize like how uncommon it is for some things and how some things are common that we all experience. And so I realized like how many, almost all of the relationships and friendships that I've had throughout the years have been from trauma bonding. Basically, like, oh, this person's been through some terrible shit, and I've been through some terrible shit, so now we can understand each other better. And if someone had a really healthy upbringing, like, how could they possibly understand me or to understand and to have the patience and the love for me for triggers and trauma responses and things like that. Like, they would just get scared and run away, even though I didn't even give them a chance mostly. So I would find these friendships and relationships where one of their parents died early on, or they had a really, they went through some huge traumatic experience so that we could relate to each other. And there was a lot of truth in that, and still is. I was at culinary school, and it was, the year after my brother committed suicide, and I was having, a pretty hard time. And one of my colleagues in the school, one of the students, she was trying to be empathetic, and I was really grateful for that. But she compared my brother dying to her dog dying. And I'm really happy that she had a very good life, and that was the only trauma that she'd ever experienced. But also it was not the same. You know what I mean? So when I started this healing process and to really look inward and look at healthy relationships and start to have healthy relationships and to be more authentic and to talk about my feelings and for it to even be a safe place to do so. I mean, growing up, when I started to have an opinion, I was really emotionally traumatized by both my parents. They made me feel really small. And as a teenager, like none of the locks worked even in the house because me trying to run away from a fight and crying because it was hurtful, when your parent is, or anybody for that matter, is just screaming at you and saying all these terrible things about you, and you just want to get away and lock yourself in a room. None of the locks worked in the house anymore. And so, as an adult, like the people pleasing, I made it a career even because it was safe. If I was nice to everyone around me, then they would be nice to me. And that's not necessarily true, right? So, to learn how to authentically talk about my feelings and to set healthy boundaries, and that it was safe for me to do so. That was really new, and I never learned that growing up. And yeah, so looking back, like, most of my relationships and most of my friendships were based on traumatic experiences and like a closeness that I would feel because they had been through similar things or other things and had felt that deeply. And that wasn't the healthiest way to go about things. And so now, like, having better relationships and better friendships, and not ones where, you're there for each other just because you both been through some shit. You actually, get to look at how they treat you. Is this friendship, is this relationship one-sided? Like, are they just using you out of convenience? Like, I had a friend that was the so-called best friend, and I moved like 20 minutes up the mountain to a house and rented this house in Napa Valley. And, I was there for 14 months, and I helped her move all these heavy furniture and all these things. And we were friends for years and years and years. But not once did she come and visit this house for like 14 months. Not once. And staying in these toxic relationships over and over and over again, it was so exhausting. And I felt so lonely. I felt so lonely in those relationships because they weren't healthy. And so out after, so much, I could go on forever about which trauma we want to talk about today. But after a lot of healing these last 2.5 years, I started to have healthy relationships and to learn how to have them. And like, if you feel weird or bad about something, ask your friend or your partner, like, if they have space to talk about it. And I used to be really, really scared of doing that because I was also highly emotionally abused as a child, and further on, because when I would try and do that. So to like reprogram and recondition myself and let go of all the conditioning that life had brought me was really hard to do, but it was really rewarding. I started to immediately see relationships and friendships for what they were instead of like what I wanted them to be. Kind of like when someone tells you that they love you, obviously you like expect to get the love. And a lot of times people tell you that they love you, or they, do whatever just to keep you around because it fulfills a role that you're playing. And that was really hard for me, my whole life. It really was. I stuck around way too long in so many relationships because people said that they cared when they really didn't. And so when I started to learn how to have better, healthy relationships and how to prioritize myself and my needs and my desires and to voice them and to become more authentic instead of just like make myself small and accommodating, I guess. It was exhausting, by the way, because, you just live in this mask and you don't get to be your real self. So it's really liberating now. It's really, really liberating now. And I went through a couple extremes of voicing my opinion and then not, and then whatever, different phases of life. But when I started the healing process, I was able, a lot of relationships just fell off, and immediately weren't in alignment with me anymore, because when I started prioritizing myself instead of everyone else's needs, then I was selfish, in their eyes. And like, it really also, honestly doesn't fucking matter what they think. I'm not selfish for having needs and wants and desires. Like, they are absolutely valid. And the people that really care about you, they want to know what those things are. And if something that doesn't feel good for you, they want to know what that is. And they might not even understand that something bothers you, because they can't read your mind if you don't tell them. And people that care will want you to feel good. And the people who are just using you, or you're filling a role for them, then they will try to manipulate you and make you feel good for a moment, but then they'll keep doing the things that make you feel bad, or they'll try and make you feel bad, like you're a bad person, and gaslight you. And that's just manipulation. Like, that has nothing to do with you. You know who you are in your heart. Sometimes you got to dig real deep and get there, like I did. Hopefully it doesn't take so much time for you, but that's also why we started this container and why I'm talking about this vulnerable subject. So we can have community and support each other, and normalize talking about hard things, and making that easier, and relatable, so that we can all grow and create these safe places where we speak our truth, because it causes a ripple effect. So yeah, like, the people that want to care about you, the people that do care about you, will want to make you feel good, and will do things and show you actions that support their words, so that their words and their actions are aligned. Now, sometimes, obviously, it's not a linear thing. So sometimes we all have interesting days and frustrations and things like that, and we might have a trigger and a trauma response. But if we're able to come back and connect, like, hey, the other night I didn't like how that conversation went. Like, can we talk about it? Do you have space, to give people, like, ask them if they have space, and not just like bombard them. And also to like not hold the frustration in, so it grows and becomes something bigger. That it feels a lot more scary most of the time to talk about the things that make us uncomfortable. We kind of like build it up in our head, and just, I don't know, like, I don't feed the worst case scenario or something. But because it is scary. It's scary to talk about the things that make us uncomfortable. But if we can normalize and we can practice doing it, it becomes easier. And usually the other person like gets it and understands if they care about you, and they're like, oh, I didn't see it that way. Like, how can we make this better? And like, you guys can come together and find a solution, and it's not worth anyone's time to play the blame game. Don't do it. It's just a huge waste of time and energy. But if you can like realize, where is this coming from? Like, what is this need that I have? Is this a need that's not getting met, that's being vocalized in bad behavior from either me or this other person? But also to not make excuses for yourself or other people's bad behavior and reactions, but to come together and make the change towards the solution. We're not perfect, and life's about learning and growing. And so how we can overcome these situations, and again, normalize like talking about your healthy boundaries and things like that. Like, I absolutely should have left my ex many times. I was also being highly manipulated by a very good manipulator. He does it to everyone, and including the court system, which is stupid. But like, if I had not made so many excuses for his bad behavior towards me, when I was looking at him and his actions and his behavior, and like the things that he told me about his past and what he had to deal with. And I was, oh, he's just dealing with this and he's just dealing with that and da 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 da. Well, guess what? The truth is, none of that is mine. And it almost killed me. So it doesn't have to get that big for you guys, thank God. But that was absolutely trauma bonding and a shit ton of manipulation, but also trauma bonding. And I didn't really feel like I was worthy of having something healthy and good and better because I didn't feel that way about myself. You know, how could someone love me who had been through all these things, you know, who had all this pain and all this hurt? How could someone love that? You know, and the fact is, we all have pain, we all have hurt, we have good stuff too. And there's a full spectrum of vivid different colors and hues of different colors that make up our lives. It's not black and white. It's vivid colors and a whole spectrum. So to learn how to love all the parts of yourself, you know, and to have a sense of self-worth and love to where you're not punishing yourself all the time for mistakes. You have compassion for yourself. Like, okay, well, I'm doing my best and I'm learning and I'm doing my best and I'm trying. And if something's not in alignment, you'll know. It'll feel weird. And to be able to, the people that care about you will like want you to feel good, like you want other people to feel good, the ones you love. And you do things that show that you care, you know, and they will too, if they care. So it's just interesting when people, healthy relationships look like setting healthy boundaries, talking about your feelings, helping you feel safe, talking about your feelings. And it opens up such a different level of intimacy, whether it be with a partner, in a relationship, or even in friendships. Like the friendships that I have made in the last 2.5 years and traveling now, and for the last almost year, I guess now, people come and go almost as quickly as you meet them. And it, you know, it's hard to be open and vulnerable. You still go through the feelings of like making really good friends and connections and then losing them. But that's just, you know, that's just kind of the flow of life. And that's okay, because I would rather feel than be numb and stuck in the matrix. I'd rather feel all those expressions of my heart and learn how to create more safety by having healthy boundaries and teaching people like what I will and will not tolerate, and having compassion for others as well and myself, and but also like prioritizing that self-worth, and if it's not in alignment, to have the strength to move forward instead of like stick around in an abusive situation or a toxic situation, or just simply something where the energy is off. And that's okay. You know, we're all learning, like I said. But the healthy relationships these days, even just in passing, are so incredibly different than before. And it's so empowering because there's humanity in it. You know, that's like in those connections with the honesty. Like, oh, this is how I feel about this. Or like, you feel weird. Like, hey, are you okay? And you're able to, and to not let, you know, little things blow up and hold resentment in for each other and just a big, huge waste of time, you know, but just get really honest with yourself and other people. And it makes such a huge difference. Really, the conversations that you have, like, you can take the mask off, burn it, leave it, just let it go. and you get to be yourself, which is one of the most freeing things ever, really. And you get to have real connections, and you get to notice immediately, almost, like, who gives a shit about you and who doesn't. And cultivate like so much more meaningful interactions and conversations and relationships, and you get to learn so much more about life and humanity and different perspectives, more than you ever would before, by loving yourself, by being open with healthy boundaries, and yeah, you don't have to live in that cycle of toxicity or trauma bonding or punishment. Like, you are worthy of having healthy relationships. And even if people can't relate to what you've been through, that's okay. You can invite in teachers and guides and other people. You can invite in different relationships for those things, those traumas. You can talk to a therapist, you can talk to a counselor. I strongly recommend that more than a therapist, especially in the US and especially right now. Some magic pill isn't going to fix everything. It's not. Going within here and meeting yourself, and that honesty, that true honesty with yourself, that is the best medicine that you can ever give yourself. Also, like coaches, coaches. I've had a like life coach, mentor, whatever. Mentors are great too. Those types of people that are resourced, that have education, and those are places where you can have someone that you can relate to and to get good advice from if you want it, or just support, because that's a much healthier space for that, instead of just looking to I guess, mask your problems because you haven't really dealt with your trauma. So you make these like relationships and responses because their trauma is bigger than yours. And so you don't really have to look at yours. I was definitely guilty of that for almost all of my life as well. But yeah, having these healthier relationships is just so much better. And honestly, you guys, we have this global community, and you can find coaches and counselors and therapists that are mindful, that are conscious, that do care, that aren't just trying to give you some pill to numb and mask and whatever. So, but actually give you really good tools like meditation or self-care, and ways that you can go within and learn how to change those cycles and love yourself, and to resource that love from within, so that you have it and you don't feel so lonely or so lost. And then that immediately shines outward once you learn how to do those things. So I guess thank you guys for watching this. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm always here. I love you guys. I hope that some of this made sense. I feel like I rambled a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, I love you guys, and I'm wishing you the best of luck and compassion along your journeys. And I hope this video was helpful. Please comment and give me feedback. I would highly appreciate it. Love you. Bye.